Right now, off the coast of Iran, the biggest military buildup since the 2003 US invasion of Iraq is going down. We're talking 40,000 troops, 500 aircraft, and 16 warships, including the world's most badass aircraft carrier that just wrapped up snatching Venezuela's president.
All this is happening because the US doesn't want their main Middle Eastern nemesis having nukes. But here's the kicker. Iran's president swears up and down they don't have any nuclear weapons whatsoever. This brewing war has been decades in the making, and in this video I'm gonna break down why the US is hitting Iran with an ultimatum right now, why cutting a peaceful deal is basically impossible, and whether this conflict could spark our World War III. Let's roll. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button, drop a like if you're vibing with this video. Iran became America's enemy on April 7, 1980, when after the Islamic Revolution, Iranians took American embassy staff hostage in Tehran, and the Americans slapped the country with the harshest sanctions at the time. Over the past nearly 50 years in isolation, Iran didn't fold. The country found friends in Russia and China. For instance, China became the main buyer of Iranian oil, accounting for 80% of Iran's exports. Iran's moving sanctioned fuel, they've got the world's fourth largest reserves, while China's happily scooping it up at crazy discounts. To Russia, Iran sells its drones and strike UAV production tech, and they're killing it. Since late 2021, the country's raked in over $4 billion from this. Plus, both buddies are planning trade routes through Iran, which is super conveniently chilling in the center of the world. Check it out. China's building the One Belt, One Road transport corridor, linking them to Europe. After the US declared a trade war on China, the Chinese need somewhere to push their goods, and Europe's internal market, which rivals America in wealth, fits the bill perfectly. The Chinese route will connect Iran's western and eastern territories, and Iran itself will start cashing in on that transit. Bottom line, everyone wins here. As for connecting north and south, that'll be Russia's trade route, literally called north-south. It runs from St. Petersburg to Mumbai, India, letting Russia trade directly with India. Russia and Iran are also linked by the peaceful atom. Back in '74, Iran started building its first nuclear power plant, and Germans got that contract. But after the Islamic Revolution, Germany joined the American sanctions, and construction got frozen. Iran always dreamed of nuclear energy though, and in 1992 turned to Russia for help, since nobody else would step up. Russia wasn't bothered by Iran being a US outcast. Moreover, after the USSR collapsed, Russia's nuclear industry was in rough shape, and this contract was a real lifesaver. Russia took on the project and finally handed over the nuclear power plant to Iran in 2016. For Iran, having nuclear tech is a red line, a demand they'll never cave on, even if the US is standing at their borders locked and loaded. The world's actually seen this playbook before, back in 2003, when, under the same pretext of destroying weapons of mass destruction, Americans and their allies invaded Iraq. That ended with Saddam Hussein's regime falling, but the US never found any weapons. Talk about awkward, but of course, nobody apologized. Iran gets that it's not really about nuclear weapons, but about taking out their main Middle Eastern enemy under any convenient excuse, and that's exactly why Iranians will never give up building a nuclear bomb. Only having one can guarantee deterring the United States. But the nuclear question isn't the only thing on the table. The US's second demand is limiting the range and quantity of Iranian missiles. Iran ranks in the top 5 countries worldwide for missile tech, which they proved during the Iran-Israel war in June 2025. And today, these missiles are Iran's real ace in the hole. Check out this map showing American military bases across the Middle East: Iraq, Israel, Oman, United Arab Emirates. Now look at the range of Iran's ballistic missiles. Literally every single American base is in their strike zone, and Iran's got over 3,000 of these bad boys. As long as Iran's packing missiles, they've got something to clap back with against US aggression. But as long as Iran's got missiles, Americans and their allies can't feel safe in the Middle East. Really like to. Plus, Iran's holding another strong card. Through this bottleneck of maritime trade, the Strait of Hormuz flows 20% of the world's oil. It's coming from Saudi Arabia and Iraq, heading to China, India, Europe, and even the US. And in the past, Iran's already threatened to shut down this strait, which always triggered crazy oil price spikes and gave the whole global economy the shakes. If things pop off militarily with the US, Iran will definitely play this card first. Iranian boats would quickly mine the strait, and their missiles could reach any vessel. Plus, right now, Iranian, Russian, and Chinese naval drills are going down near this strait. Having allied ships around might make the Americans think twice. And finally, America's third demand is for Iran to stop backing proxy groups. These are armed organizations doing Iran's dirty work across the Middle East: Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. These militant groups hit Americans and their allies in the region: Iraq, Syria, Israel, Yemen. They attack and seize ships, and getting rid of them ain't easy since they roll with guerrilla tactics, staying low-key. Through these proxy crews, collectively called the Axis of Resistance, Iran's pushing what they call the export of the Islamic Revolution. They're nudging their neighbors toward the same kind of regime change Iran had back in '79, hoping to intimidate them into making Iran the most influential player in the Middle East. So far it's been a mixed bag, but it's still a major card up the Iranian regime's sleeve. If the US attacks, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis won't sit this one out. They'll go to bat for Iran. That said, funding and arming proxy groups is tough for Iran right now, since things at home are pretty rough. And that's exactly why the US picked this moment for their ultimatum. Here's how many American dollars you can get for 1 Iranian rial. To buy just $1, you need to fork over more than 1 million rials, even though back in December 25, the rial was twice as strong. But because of sky-high inflation, almost 40%, the currency tanked. Iranians lost faith in their own money, and massive protests broke out, which Iranian authorities started brutally crushing. Over 3,000 people died, and to keep new unrest on the down low, Iran just straight up killed the internet. You gotta admit, there's no better time for threats. When your country's in total chaos, the last thing you need is more problems. Scenario 1. Surgical strikes on Iran's nuclear and military sites. Back in 25, Americans already bombed them, siding with their eternal ally Israel. Iran didn't just take it and fired back at the American Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. If things go down more or less like that this time, US military bases in the Middle East will be in a seriously hot zone. Scenario 2. Full-scale war against Iran, with allied Israel joining in. Israel would likely be down for it, since Iran's their biggest threat. Iranians back Hamas, which Israel's been fighting in Gaza, and Iranians call Israel the cancer of the Middle East, and obviously dream of holy war against the Israelis. Plus, that 12-day war back in 25 already showed what the tension between Iran and Israel had escalated into. Under this scenario, we'd see the world's strongest military teaming up with Israel's army going up against Iran, which ranks 16th in the global military power rankings.
But you know what? It's unlikely Trump, who calls himself the peace president and who created a peace council, wants his name tied to a bloody Middle Eastern war in the history books, possibly the bloodiest one yet. So this option's probably drafted and sitting in some White House desk drawer. But first and foremost, Americans will try to get what they want another way. True, that went down in the distant Western Hemisphere, and Russia and China looked the other way. But now the US is getting right up close to their main ally. Sure, Russia and China probably won't deploy their military forces to Iran. Russia's already locked in on the special military operation in Ukraine and won't spread itself thin, while China's main focus right now is Taiwan. But Russia and China can definitely back their Iranian buddies with weapons supplies and share combat experience. What's more, it benefits Russia if the US gets bogged down in Iran. Military action would stop Iranian oil from the Middle East from hitting world markets, and of course, oil prices would shoot up. But then, Russia's oil revenues would increase, revenues that took a serious hit after American sanctions in October 2025. Expensive oil obviously doesn't help China, but a US attack on Iran would distract American attention from the South China Sea, and that's the perfect moment to bring Taiwan back into the fold. And trust me, for Xi Jinping, that island's way more valuable than a Middle Eastern ally. The Americans understand this perfectly and will very likely not start a war with Iran. The risks are just too damn high. Smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and let me know you're into this stuff. Catch you in the next one.